Hello, Timothy Linsdale, video producer and Christian and a consumer of things, and also putting on my science and consumer hat today and looking at what should you be ashamed about now. Hey, before we start, like and comment on my videos, subscribe to my channel. To support this channel would be great. Yes, what is it you should be ashamed of now? Well, you heard in the new Green Deal, right? Everybody's supposed to stop flying around in airplanes. I guess we get back to rowing a boat across the ocean and our sailboats. And does anybody believe any of that stuff? Huh. Anyway, the airline industry is now getting caught up in this. You've heard of carbon offsets, all right? So it's based on how much carbon you're going to produce, and of course most of that with airline industry is jet fuel. Okay, and then they say, well, they have a monetary equivalent that you can pay to make up for that. So every time you get on a plane, you should be ashamed, and you're paying your part to cover that shame in carbon offsets. Okay, that's the reality of what's going on right now. California's top air quality regulators are debating this issue right now. Now, California is one of the first to get into carbon offsets to solve all our human ills. But they're worried about it. They had contentious arguments over it from supporters and critics that California's name would be misused incorrectly over this issue. This is an issue coming from the UN, of course, to make the UN happy. And what happens when we do that? We're trying to satisfy the UN. We are trying to support and pay for countries who are behind in this, who are polluting more than anybody, even though they say we're the giant polluters. You know, I lived in Southern California, almost 40 years. From the time I got here to now, the difference in our air quality is really stunning. Yes, it was because they've been perfecting automobile engines for years now to produce very little pollution, which is really great. I like that. I like clean air, clean water. Okay, well, this carbon offset thing is just it's like extortion money, okay? You're paying off some organization for your carbon production, and if that money's going into countries like some place in Africa, who knows where that money's going? It's just satisfying, making somebody happy. But anyway, California is arguing over this. Should they be involved? Because they actually think their name and reputation could be misused. And California's top air quality regulators are debating this issue right now. And but there's clearly a danger of California's name being misused or abused, some of the staff have said. Now, the tropical forests are in fast vanishing. But remember, they're not vanishing necessarily from climate change. They're being cut down. Now, what happens when they cut these forests down? Well, if they have any brains, hopefully they're selling that wood profitably. Wood that could be used in multiple ways. Building homes, building nice furniture, whatever it is. And then they use the land to farm, to produce more food, to feed their people. Should we cut everything down? No, of course not. In the U.S., we've been replanting, recycling our forests for decades. Cut down trees, they replant it all. Is it perfect? Probably not. But a lot of times we're not managing the forest either, and it ends up with so much dead growth in it, it burns down. So there you go. On it goes. But now let's get back to the flight shame part. The airline industry is no stranger to using carbon offsets. You can bet on that. Such programs ebbing and flowing through the last decade. Now, I live in San Diego. The International Airport started an offset program campaign in 2015, dubbed the Good Traveler Program. See, now you're a good person when you're doing this. You're joining the right group and paying the right money. It's really extortion money, is it not? Robert Gleason, the president and CEO of Evans Hotels, who is credited with spearheading the offset program while serving on the board, having the availability and ease of purchasing an offset credit makes me feel better about it. I gotta love that quote. I feel better. Here, let me give you some more money. Whether you believe this or not, as to whether the aviation industry is destroying the world, which is us because we use these planes to get around quickly, such as an emergency operation or emergency care. When they have a disaster, do we jump in a sailboat to get over there? No. We're in airplanes to get there quick and take care of the problem. Carbon offsets credits are typically purchased for roughly $10 a ton, okay? But they can be as little as 50 cents up to $50 a ton. So there you go. Maybe you should hand them another $10 when you get on that plane to take care of that. Despite such programs, questions have started to spread about whether and to what extent is socially acceptable to fly. Oh boy, here we go. I see Elton John just took a trip to southern France, and he paid his extortion fund, extortion fee, to let him do that. You know, that's how that's going to be. I mean, they'll pray that, yes, I did the right thing. I paid my extortion. I mean, I paid my fee for carbon offsets. Flight shaming. It won't be long. They'll be standing when you're at the airport. Aren't you ashamed for flying? Well, some celebrities and even royalty have been dinged for flying around too much. CEOs and others, celebrities, actors, and they'll do whatever they got to cover their shame. Many professionals rely on air travel, of course, for their businesses to survive the competitive nature. But a lot of stuff is done digitally now for years. With the technology we have, it's easy to film a board meeting, an individual communicating with somebody across the world, piece of cake. Do that with my son on the phone a lot, piece of cake. I don't know whether that can... It does solve a lot of traffic on airlines, that's for sure. So how bad is flying really? It depends on the accommodations. A typical first-class flight between San Diego and New York generates roughly the same amount of greenhouse gas per person as a typical Californian driving a moderately fuel-efficient car does in an entire year, about 4 metric tons. Now, the average American has a annual carbon footprint of 16 metric tons. Okay. Now, many countries in South America and Africa, by comparison, have emission rates of fewer than 3 tons per person. Well, yeah, they probably don't have enough money to go anywhere. The countries aren't as successful as ours. I mean, there's multiple reasons. It doesn't mean we're trying to destroy the place. We should be so ashamed of ourselves, of our success, or our ancestors' success to get us where we're at. Flying can be less carbon intensive than driving a gasoline-powered car or truck, though. Flying economy class, for example, has a smaller carbon footprint than driving alone and similar impact to carpooling with another person. Well, good for you if you're doing that, and you can do it. Great stuff. The airlines make the point that the airline industry drives 10 million U.S. jobs, 1.5 trillion annual U.S. dollars in economic activity. Just 2% of the nation's greenhouse gas emissions, though. Let me get that again. Airline industry drives more than 10 million jobs in America, $1.5 trillion in annual U.S. economic activity. But they only contribute 2% of the nation's greenhouse gases. Now that's kind of cool. So, in our shameful behavior and shameful activity of flying, we find out that flying in the U.S. uses up only 2% of the greenhouse gas emissions in the country and contributes massive amounts of money to our economy. Well, there you go. Are you ashamed? I mean, I probably won't get on a plane right away, not even in a year or two, who knows. But there are those that do have to fly a lot, keep their businesses going or whatever it is, a little vacation somewhere. But now you can pay your extortion fee and get on and go. So who knows? Where is it all going? Hey, like and comment on my videos, subscribe, support my channel. You know, whether you're up in the air or down on the ground, get out there and make it a great day.